I remember when I lived in Shelby, Mississippi with my grandfather, and this, of course, was in the early 40s, and it was right after the Great Depression. And I remember them telling us about people who were without food or clothing or anything, and well, we lived on a farm. My grandfather was renting the land at the time, and he raised all kinds of crops such as corn, which we would make cornmeal out of, wheat would make flour out of that, and sorghum would make molasses, and of course he would slaughter cattle and hogs, and we'd have our own meat and everything. But during that time there were no refrigerations, especially not in the country where we lived. So we had what was called an ice box, and we'd take the meat and salt it down somewhat, and then some of it, the larger portion, we'd put into this ice box, and my grandfather would go to town, which was approximately 5 to 8 miles away from where we lived, and he would purchase big blocks of ice, 50 pounds, 100 pounds. You could get up to 150 pounds, but our little ice box would hold about 50 pounds. And when he'd go and get the ice and put it in the box, then we would keep perishable foods for over 2 weeks, and then he'd have to replenish the ice again. But this was a time when people who had money, the dollar wasn't worth very much at all during the Great Depression, and you had to have government stamps along with the dollar, and if you had money and the stamps, you could purchase a lot of things for a small amount of money. But if you had neither the money or the stamps, it was pretty difficult for poor people to live. But I have to say we were in pretty good shape because of the farm and the things that we raised. And I remember a lot of people around us who did not have a farm, a place to raise food, and people who did have would help them out. And this was a time when everybody trusted everybody else. I can remember when we would go to church on Sunday, and sometimes some of the people would come up to my grandfather and say, "Joe, I came by your house and I got a ham out of your smokehouse there, and I took some wheat and I took some flour and cornmeal and that sort of thing, and I'm going to slaughter hogs in about 2 weeks, and then you can come over and take whatever you need." And that's the way people operated. They would just help each other, and if you weren't home, they'd take what they need and they'd tell you about it and replenish it when they have their own. So those were very, very good, rewarding times that I lived in Mississippi.